Hi everyone, welcome back to part 6 of my series on how to buy a house. In the first few parts I talked about learning the market, finding a lender, finding a realtor, doing a focused search, and finally making the offer. If you missed those videos, I'll leave links in the description below. But if you've been watching and you like the series, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel out and lets me know what kind of content y'all like. With that out of the way, let's talk about today's topic, which is inspection and negotiation. Once you've put in your offer, hopefully it's been accepted, you have to put in some money into an escrow account, and this money is called Earnest Money. Basically, it shows that you're serious about buying the house, and this money usually gives you what's called the option period, where you get a chance to do further inspection on the house, and you're allowed to terminate the contract for whatever reason you want and get your earnest money back. In our case, the option period was 10 days, but if there are delays in doing some of the inspections or follow-up inspections, both parties can agree and you can have it extended. We had to do that one time. I will caution you that if you do that, you should make it official, have a written contract up, and actually put some additional money into escrow. In our case, it was just $10 additional. It's just to make it official so you avoid any uncomfortable situations if later down the line you do decide during that extended period to terminate the contract and all of a sudden the seller doesn't want to respect any verbal options. So you have something written down and you have money to make it official. Once you're in the option period, you really want to hurry up and get the inspection done early, because depending on the results of the inspection, you may want a few days to mull it over, whether you want to move forward with the contract, or you may want to get follow-up items looked at by specialists, or just use the time to negotiate. So get the inspection done early. Either way, try to find a reputable and experienced inspector to do the inspection, and you should be able to get recommendations for those from either your real estate agent or talk to friends or colleagues who have recently bought a home and had a good experience. Depending on the results of the inspection, you may want to do follow-up on some items. For example, if there's structural issues, you may want to get a structural engineer to look at it, or you may want to get an AC specialist or a plumber to look at those things, because the inspector is usually kind of a jack of all trades and doesn't really specialize in one thing. So he can notice what's wrong, but he can't always tell you the extent of the problem. And if you find the results are not enough to deter you from actually buying the house, then it's really to your advantage to get actual quotes from these specialists, because then you can come in with some real numbers when you come to renegotiate the price based on whatever repairs you have to do. You can actually be present for the inspection itself. We did this for both inspections for the homes we had under contract, and ask the inspector questions about anything that catches your eye. First of all, he may have missed it. Another set of eyes never hurts, but it's also a good opportunity to learn about your potential home and ask about the different blemishes and things from an expert. Just make sure that you're not getting in between his feet and not letting him do his actual job. In our case, in the first house we had an offer accepted on, the inspection brought up some really wild things. For example, in the listing, the owner claimed that the electricity had been completely redone in the house, but in reality, almost all of the wiring in the house was the old style wiring, and nearly none of the plugs even had grounds. And being novices, we didn't even notice this when we did the walkthrough when we were looking before we put in the offer. But you can bet that after that inspection, I noticed every plug in every house that we walked through. Another thing that we found was that because the gutters weren't removing water properly, the owner had actually just drilled holes in the gutters to remove water, and our inspection happened to be on a rainy day, so we managed to catch it easily. So you really can't make this stuff up. There's some crazy things out there. In the end, we decided to eat the cost of the inspection as the price of doing business, and we just pulled our offer. You can feel free to share any horror stories you have from your inspection in the comments below, but you should understand that the inspection is really important. There's a lot of things that don't meet the eye at first glance. This kind of crazy stuff that we found in our first inspection is the reason why I highly recommend not waiving inspection and not waiving the option period. And I do understand that there's some areas where your offer may not even be looked at if you're not waiving inspection or the option period, but do your best to avoid it. Even in the difficult areas, you may be able to make your offer still seem attractive by potentially offering a higher price, but still demanding to have that option period. It really is a case-by-case basis, but in our case, we got a lot of value out of it, and that's why I strongly recommend that you do go through with the inspection. And it also has some additional value of helping you out later with renegotiating the price. Again, depends on the market if you have any negotiating power at all. The second offer that we had accepted, which is the house we currently live in, the inspection actually did bring up some issues. It found some potential foundation problems that we wanted to have a foundation company look at, and we also wanted to bring in a plumber to do a static pressure plumbing inspection, which makes sure that there's no leaks in the pipes. So that's why we had to have our option period extended. In the end, based on the inspection and the follow-up specialists, we ended up negotiating the price down by almost $12,000. Obviously, most of that money had to go into actually repairing these things, but those things needed to be fixed either way, so it's nice to have the costs mostly covered ahead of time. When you're negotiating on some of these things that you find during the inspection, the most important thing to have is a lot of information. So actually get quotes from professionals on the things that you really intend to fix. Don't be nitpicky about regular wear and tear. You should be negotiating in good faith, but also don't be afraid to ask for what you need. In the end, if you pull out of the deal, yes, you're going to eat those inspection costs, and they can be quite high. You definitely don't want to be repeating this process again and again, but it's going to be a lot less than if you get into a bad deal. And the seller should also be incentivized to negotiate at this point, because anything that's found on your inspection, they're legally required to put in the seller's disclosure for any future buyers. So for that first inspection that I told you about, the horror house, the seller had to fix most of the things that we found by himself, and he still hasn't managed to sell over a year later. And don't let your realtor push you into a deal that you have a bad gut feeling about. That's why you need a really good agent on your side like we had, who's not going to push you into a bad deal because they're going to go hungry that month if they don't make the sale. They should be on your side, have your best interest at heart, and not have any competing incentives. When you're actually negotiating, you can ask for either money to be taken off of the closing costs, meaning that the sellers will cover those costs, or you can reduce the purchase price of the house. Or you can do a combination, which is what we ended up doing. If you're just buying the house cash, then it's probably a wash because cash is cash. But if you're financing the home, I think you're generally better off getting the money taken off of the closing costs, because that's cash that you actually get to keep on hand now. And it's probably going to be worth more than future money because of inflation and opportunity cost. And don't be afraid of the negotiations. Act in good faith, be reasonable, try to create a win-win situation, but most importantly, don't get emotional. Use your wits and avoid making a bad financial decision. That's generally what I have to say about inspection and negotiation. Obviously, I think there's a very high value to the inspection. You get to learn about your house. And also, I think you should try to negotiate either way. You've got nothing to lose. You're already under contract. Worst case, you save yourself some money. Let me know in the comments if you have any additional tips. If you got any value out of this video, please give it a like and consider subscribing. Next video, I'll talk about the closing itself, so I hope to see you there. Thank you all for watching. See you all next time.